she pulled him from a burning car, not knowing he was the prince who would change her life. Flames burst into the night sky, swallowing the black luxury car as it screeched against the concrete barrier. Glass shattered across the wet pavement, and the sound of twisting metal echoed through the street. Naomi Carter didn't think. She ran. The heat was unbearable, the air thick with the acrid bite of gasoline. Through the cracked windshield, she saw him, a man slumped over the steering wheel, blood sliding down his temple, his tailored suit already singed at the edges. The crowd screamed for someone to wait for the fire trucks, but Naomi wasn't the type to stand still while someone burned alive. "Stay with me!" she shouted, ramming her elbow against the glass until it spiderwebbed, shards slicing her arm. Smoke clawed at her throat. She fumbled with the seatbelt that refused to give, every second dragging the flames closer. With shaking hands, she pulled her EMT knife from her pocket, sawing the strap until it snapped. His heavy body fell against her, dead weight. "God help me," she groaned, dragging him inch by inch onto the slick pavement. Behind her, the car erupted into a ball of fire, the blast throwing sparks into the night. The crowd scattered, but Naomi shielded his body with her own, feeling the shock of heat sear her back. His eyelids fluttered. For a moment his eyes, deep, dark, commanding, met hers. His lips parted, and through the haze of pain, he rasped a single word. "Naomi?" Her heart stopped. How does he know my name? She hadn't said a word. Before she could ask, his head rolled back, unconscious again. Sirens wailed in the distance. Naomi pressed 2 fingers against his neck, his pulse strong but erratic. Rain poured harder, soaking them both, blood mingling with water as it flowed across the cracked sidewalk. She looked closer at him, the sharp jawline, the expensive watch half melted by fire, the unmistakable aura of someone who didn't belong in her world. Whoever he was, this man wasn't just wealthy, he was important, the kind of important that brought trouble. Paramedics stormed onto the scene, but even as they lifted him onto a stretcher, he clutched her hand weakly, refusing to let go. Cameras flashed. Someone in the crowd shouted, "That's him!" "That's the prince." Naomi froze, stunned. Prince? What prince? The stretcher doors slammed, the ambulance sped off, and Naomi was left in the rain, heart pounding, the fire still crackling behind her. She had saved a stranger from death, but the whisper of her name and the rumor in the crowd haunted her, because if the whispers were true, Naomi Carter hadn't just pulled a man from a burning car, she had pulled a prince, and nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking! Crown Prince Malik Adewale, rumored injured in car crash outside D.C. Naomi's fingers trembled as she read it. Naomi rubbed the blood from her hands hours later, the scent of smoke and gasoline still clinging to her hair. The hospital corridors buzzed with chaos. News vans had already begun parking outside, reporters clawing for answers. She had come to check on the stranger she pulled from the fire, but the nurses gave her nothing but clipped instructions. No visitors, no exceptions. Still, she couldn't leave. Something about the way he whispered her name burned in her chest. So Naomi sat quietly on a bench near the restricted ward, hoodie pulled low over her face. At last, she caught sight of him. He was wheeled past, half awake, eyes hazy with painkillers. His skin gleamed under the fluorescent lights, his features strong even under bruises. He looked like no ordinary man, and he wasn't dressed like one either. The faint shine of a platinum cufflink clung stubbornly to his charred sleeve. Naomi rose, compelled, and whispered without thinking, "You're safe now." His eyes found her through the fog. Recognition flickered. For the briefest moment his lips curved, as if the sight of her anchored him. But before she could say more, a nurse pulled the stretcher around the corner, vanishing behind double doors. Naomi stood frozen. Later, she tried again, this time slipping past a distracted orderly into the recovery wing. The stranger lay in a private room, IV drip running into his arm, a faint beeping keeping rhythm with his heartbeat. The blinds were closed, the room too quiet. Naomi hesitated, then stepped closer. "You don't know me," she whispered, her fingers brushing the railing of his bed. "But I'm the one who dragged you out of that car. Don't go dying on me, okay?" To her shock, his eyes opened again, not glazed this time, focused. "You saved me," he murmured, his voice rich even in weakness. "Why?" Naomi's throat tightened. "Because I couldn't watch someone burn alive." He studied her, as if measuring her soul. "You're different." Before she could answer, the door creaked open. A tall man in an immaculate suit entered, his expression sharp, his voice clipped. "Miss Carter?" he asked, though his eyes showed no surprise. "The hospital will compensate you for your bravery. His Highness requires rest." "His Highness?" Naomi blinked, confused. The man stiffened, realizing his slip. "I mean, Mr. Adderwale." That will be all. He all but ushered her toward the door. Naomi left reluctantly, her heart racing. Who exactly had she saved? By the time she reached the hospital entrance, the answer was waiting. Cameras flashed, reporters shoved microphones toward her face. "Miss Carter, are you the woman who pulled him from the flames? What is your connection to the prince? Will the royal family reward you?" Naomi shielded her face, shoving past them. "Prince?" The word echoed in her head. This couldn't be real. She was just an EMT, juggling school and bills. Royals belonged in fairy tales, not on cracked sidewalks in DC. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Imani's name lit the screen. "Girl, you're trending!" her best friend shouted the moment Naomi answered. "That video of you dragging that fine man out of the fire?" All over Twitter, #FireAngel is everywhere. Do you realize you're famous? Naomi leaned against a lamppost, her legs weak. "This isn't funny, Imani. They're saying he's some prince, Prince Malik Adewale," Imani confirmed, voice rising with glee. "Of the Adewale dynasty. Rich, powerful, single. And now he owes his life to you." Naomi closed her eyes, dread sinking heavy in her chest. Life had been hard enough juggling hospital shifts and overdue rent. She didn't want fame, she didn't want cameras, and she definitely didn't want to be the subject of royal gossip. But as she hung up, a sleek black car slid to the curb in front of her. The back door opened. The same suited man from the hospital gestured. "Miss Carter, His Highness would like to see you." Naomi's heart pounded. She should walk away. She should run. But something inside her, the same instinct that had pushed her into the flames, drove her forward. She slid into the car, the door closing like a trap around her. And for the first time, she wondered if saving a stranger's life had just cost her her own freedom. The car's interior smelled of polished leather and wealth. Naomi sat stiffly, her hoodie damp from the rain, her hands clenched on her lap. Across from her, the suited aide, stern, unreadable, spoke into his phone in hushed tones. She wanted to demand where they were going, but her gut told her to stay quiet. The car pulled up to a private wing of the hospital, cordoned off with security. Flashes went off from a distance as reporters tried to force their way closer. Guards in dark suits lined the entrance, creating a wall that parted only when Naomi stepped out. Her sneakers squeaked on the marble as she was led through double-glass doors. And then she saw him. He stood at the far end of the suite, tall and broad-shouldered, even with the bandage on his head. He wore a crisp white shirt, collar open, and though he leaned lightly on a cane, there was an unmistakable authority in the way he carried himself. His eyes found her instantly, and the noise of the room faded. Naomi froze. He looked nothing like the broken man she dragged from fire. He looked royal. "Miss Carter." His voice was low, steady, commanding. You came. Naomi swallowed hard. I didn't exactly have a choice. Your people practically dragged me here. A small smile tugged at his lips. Forgive them. They can be overzealous, but I had to see you again. Before she could answer, whispers rippled through the room. Heads turned. Naomi realized why. Cameras had been allowed inside, and now she was standing before a prince. The aide cleared his throat, addressing the cluster of press who had slipped in. Ladies and gentlemen, Crown Prince Malik Adewale wishes to personally thank the young woman who saved his life. Gasps and shudders filled the air. Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. Prince. Crown Prince. This wasn't a rumor, it was truth. Malik reached for her hand. The cameras caught the moment, and Naomi swore she heard a dozen headlines being written in that instant. Her skin burned where his palm touched hers, but she yanked back. What is this? She whispered harshly. You let me think you were just some man. Why didn't you say who you were? I couldn't. His expression sobered, voice dropping low so only she could hear. I've been living under another name for reasons you wouldn't yet understand. But know this, I owe you my life. That is not a debt I take lightly, Naomi opened her mouth to reply, but a sharp, mocking laugh cut through the tension. A tall, elegant young woman in a silver gown stepped forward, eyes glittering with malice. Really, Malik? This is the girl. She looked Naomi up and down, gaze lingering on her scuffed sneakers. Dragging strays off the street now? Naomi stiffened. She didn't need the introduction, but Malik gave it anyway. Naomi Carter, this is Zara Grant. His tone was icy. Daughter of Senator Evelyn Grant. Zara's lips curved into a cruel smile. Charmed. Though I can't imagine what you're doing here. Men like Malik need women who can stand beside them, not charity cases. Heat surged into Naomi's cheeks, but before she could speak, Malik's hand closed firmly over Zara's wrist. His voice carried like steel. Enough. Naomi Carter risked her life for mine. She will be shown respect. From everyone, the room fell silent, the camera snapping furiously. Naomi's pulse raced as she realized what he'd just done. Defended her publicly. But as the flashes blinded her and the whispers swelled, Naomi understood something else. This moment would follow her everywhere. Strangers already knew her name. She wasn't just Naomi Carter anymore. She was the EMT who had pulled a prince from fire. And no matter how much she wanted to run back to her quiet life, she couldn't escape it now. As the press swarmed closer, a voice hissed into Malik's ear, urgent, furious. Your mother knows. The Queen has been informed. Malik's eyes darkened, his grip tightening. Naomi didn't yet realize it, but the battle had only just begun. Naomi never belonged in rooms like this. The Crystal Regency Hotel glittered with chandeliers, gold trim, and gowns worth more than her entire year's salary. The air was thick with the scent of roses and expensive cologne. Violins weaving through the chatter of senators, CEOs, and foreign dignitaries. Naomi clutched the small clutch Imani had lent her, her hands trembling against the sequins. The dress she wore, sleek, emerald green, borrowed from Imani's closet, clung to her curves and shimmered under the light, but it didn't stop her from feeling like a child playing dress-up. Her sneakers had been traded for painful heels. Her hair was styled, pinned higher than she ever dared. Yet when she caught her reflection in the mirrored wall, she still saw the EMT student from Southeast DC who took double shifts to keep the lights on. She shouldn't be here. And then the room hushed. Naomi turned, and there he was, Malik Adewale. No cane tonight, though a faint bandage peeked beneath the sharp line of his tailored suit. He carried himself with the quiet authority of a man born to be bowed to, his gaze sweeping over the crowd until it landed on her. The heat of that stare stole Naomi's breath. In an instant, whispers slithered across the ballroom. Is that the girl who saved him? The American EMT. She doesn't belong here. Naomi's chest tightened as the realization struck her fully. Not just rumor, not just whispers in hospital corridors. He was a prince, standing beneath chandeliers as if they had been built for him, and she was the scandal at his side. When he approached, she could barely look up. You came, he murmured, his voice low, warm, almost amused. Her throat was dry. You didn't give me much choice. A mysterious car pulling up outside my building isn't exactly an invitation I could refuse. You're here because I wanted you here, Malik said simply, as though that settled the matter. And maybe it did, for him. But Naomi's mind spun. This was the man who had whispered her name from the edge of death, who she thought was just another stranger she had saved. Now she stood in his world, under 1,000 eyes dissecting every inch of her. A sharp, feminine laugh sliced through her spiraling thoughts. Zara Grant glided into view, her silver gown catching every shard of light, her smirk sharper than diamonds. She held a glass of champagne with casual grace, but her eyes gleamed with malice. Well, Zara purred, circling Naomi like a predator, if it isn't the hero. Tell me, Malik, did you bring her here to entertain us with tales of fire and smoke? Or is she tonight's charity project? Laughter rippled among Zara's circle of friends. Naomi's stomach twisted, heat rising to her face. Malik's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Zara made her move. She lifted her glass with a too bright smile, turning ever so slightly, then tipped the golden liquid forward. The champagne cascaded over Naomi's chest and down her dress, cold, sticky, humiliating. Gasps erupted around them, a wave of whispers snapping through the ballroom. Naomi froze, shame burning hotter than fire. Every camera, every phone pointed at her, capturing her soaked dress, her wide eyes, her trembling hands. And then Malik moved. In one swift step, he took the empty flute from Zara's hand and placed it firmly on the nearest tray. His voice, low but thunderous with authority, carried across the hall. Enough. The word silenced the room. He reached for Naomi's hand, steadying her trembling fingers. This woman is no charity case. She is the reason I am standing before you tonight. She risked her life when all of you would have stood by and watched. She deserves honor, not ridicule. Gasps turned to murmurs, cameras flashing like lightning. Zara's face drained of color, her smirk faltering under the weight of his words. Naomi's breath came in shallow bursts. Malik's hand was warm, solid, protective. But with every flash of the cameras, she felt the walls closing in. This was no longer just a misunderstanding in a hospital. This was spectacle, scandal. By tomorrow, her name would be in headlines. And she wasn't sure she was ready for the world that came with being touched by a prince. As Malik guided her away from the whispers, a notification buzzed across every reporter's phone. The Queen herself had released a statement from overseas. The Crown Prince of Adderwale will soon return home. And he will not return alone. Naomi's knees nearly buckled. She hadn't agreed to any of this. Naomi had barely gotten the champagne stains out of her borrowed dress when she stormed into the private lounge Malik had reserved at the end of the gala. Her chest was tight, her pulse thundering. Behind the heavy oak door, the world's chatter dulled, but her anger burned hotter with every step. "You!" she hissed, slamming the door behind her. Malik turned from the window, surprised by her ferocity. "Do you think this is a game?" His dark eyes narrowed, but he didn't flinch. He was dressed impeccably still, as if nothing could touch him, not even humiliation in a ballroom. "Naomi, no!" She jabbed her finger at him. You let me walk into that circus with no warning. No explanation. One day I'm dragging some man out of a burning car. The next I'm standing in front of cameras being called your savior, your whatever. And you didn't think to mention you're a prince. He inhaled slowly, shoulders stiff. It wasn't that simple. Oh, it was simple enough, Naomi snapped, heat rising in her voice. A little honesty would have been nice. Instead, I find out from strangers shouting at me and girls in diamond gowns spilling drinks on me for sport. For the first time, Malik's composure cracked, his jaw tightened, his eyes darkening. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I enjoy being hounded, my every move dissected? Naomi, my life isn't my own. I live under the scrutiny of nations. One wrong step, one wrong friend, one wrong word, and wars can be ignited. Naomi froze, taken aback by the weight in his tone. His words weren't excuses, they were shackles. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his voice softer now. I didn't tell you because I couldn't. Because when you pulled me from that fire, for the first time in years, I was just a man, not a title, not a crown. Just a man on the edge of death who opened his eyes and saw you. Her breath caught. He meant it. She could see it in his eyes. The loneliness, the exhaustion, the longing. But that didn't change the reality pressing in around her. Naomi turned away, hugging her arms. You live in a world I don't belong in. I can't breathe in those rooms, Malik. They look at me like I'm dirt under their shoes. And you... She swallowed, her voice breaking. You didn't protect me from it. He was silent for a long moment. Then, you think you don't belong, but you already do. Naomi, you risked everything without hesitation. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Everyone wants something. Money, power, position. But you wanted nothing but to save a life. That's why you matter. That's why I can't let you slip away. The raw conviction in his tone rattled her more than the insults in the ballroom. She turned, lips parted, but before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Marcus. She stepped aside, answering in a whisper. Hey. Naomi. His voice was sharp, tight. What the hell am I seeing on TV? You, with some prince? People calling you his girlfriend? She winced. It's not like that. Don't lie to me. I saw that man's hand on you. Rich men like him, they chew girls like us up and spit us out. Don't you dare let him drag you into his mess. Do you understand me? Her throat ached. Marcus, promise me, her brother demanded. Promise me you won't fall for this. The call ended, leaving Naomi trembling. She glanced up to find Malik watching her, his face unreadable. Your brother? He asked quietly. Naomi nodded, shoving her phone away. He thinks you'll ruin me. Malik's expression hardened. I would never. His words rang with finality, as if daring anyone, brother, queen, or rival, to suggest otherwise. But as Naomi looked into his eyes, uncertainty clawed at her. Wouldn't he? Not intentionally, perhaps, but the weight of his world, the glare of his crown, it could crush her all the same. Meanwhile, halfway across the ocean, in the grand palace of Adewale, another storm was brewing. Queen Mother Adebayo stood at the head of a long table, diamond crown glinting under crystal chandeliers. Advisors murmured nervously as she slammed a gilded newspaper onto the table. The headline screamed, Prince's American Savior Sparks Scandal. Her lips curled in disdain. An EMT girl, a commoner from America parading at my son's side, this insult will not stand. Her eyes blazed as she rose. Prepare the jet. My son has forgotten his place, but I will remind him. Back in D.C., Malik reached for Naomi's hand again, his voice low, steady. I don't care what they say. I don't care what my family threatens. I am alive because of you. And I swear, Naomi, I won't let you go. Not to the press, not to your brother's fear, not even to my mother's will. His hand was warm, his gaze unshakable. Naomi's heart pounded with a mix of fear and longing, caught between his promise and her brother's warning. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to step into the fire of his certainty. But in her gut, she knew one thing for certain. If she gave her heart to a prince, it would either save her or destroy her. A sharp knock rattled the lounge door. Malik's aide burst in, face pale. "Your Highness, Her Majesty has landed. The Queen is here." Naomi's blood ran cold. Naomi had barely slept. The Queen was in D.C. The words alone sat like a stone on her chest. By morning, the city seemed different, darker, as if every corner held a pair of eyes waiting to pounce. She tried to carry on as usual, throwing herself into her EMT classes and hospital shift. But when she stepped out through the automatic doors that evening, a wall of flashing lights blinded her. "Naomi Carter, over here. Do you love the prince? Are you moving to Adderwale to marry him?" Microphones shoved into her face, cameras snapping so close she could see her reflection in the lenses. Naomi's heart pounded as she threw up her hands. "Back off!" she cried, but they only pressed harder. "Is it true the Queen disapproves of you?" one reporter shouted. "Are you being paid to stay with him?" Another sneered. Her stomach twisted. The questions felt like knives, carving pieces of her dignity away in front of strangers. She ducked her head and pushed through the crowd, her breath ragged by the time she stumbled onto the street. "Pathetic!" A smooth, mocking voice chimed behind her. Naomi spun, and her heart sank. Zara Grant stood by a glossy black town car, perfectly styled as always, her lips curved in a cruel smile. "What a picture you make," Zara purred, hounded by reporters like some washed-up celebrity. "Do you really think you can survive in Malik's world? You don't have the face, the family, or the breeding. You're disposable." Naomi's fists clenched. "If you think insulting me will scare me off, think again." Zara stepped closer, her perfume cloying. "Oh, sweetheart, you won't need me to scare you off. The Queen will do that herself. Malik's future doesn't belong to you. It belongs to his country, and one day you'll wake up and realize you were just a distraction." With a final smirk, she slid into her car, leaving Naomi trembling on the sidewalk. By the time Naomi reached her apartment that night, her chest felt heavy, her resolve fraying. She stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror, Zara's words echoing in her head. Disposable, a distraction. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe she was in over her head. A knock startled her. She opened the door, and there he was, Malik. Gone was the tuxedo, the polished air. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, his hair slightly disheveled, his eyes dark with apology. "Naomi," he said softly, her heart twisted. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you. After today, after the press, after Zara, I had to make sure you're okay." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The tiny apartment suddenly felt even smaller with him inside. Malik glanced around. The second-hand couch, the cracked paint, the bills stacked on the table. Yet there was no judgment in his gaze, only quiet respect. Without a word, he shrugged off his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and moved into the kitchen. Naomi blinked. "What are you doing?" "Cooking," he replied simply, opening her cabinets. "Where's your skillet?" She gawked as he rummaged like a man who'd done this before. "Princes don't cook." "I'm not just a prince," Malik said, pulling out a pan with a small smile. "I'm a man who owes you his life. And tonight I'm making you dinner." Naomi leaned against the counter, torn between laughter and disbelief. Watching him fumble with her mismatched utensils, his broad shoulders bent in her cramped kitchen, felt surreal. Yet when the scent of garlic and peppers filled the room, something inside her loosened. They ate on the couch, plates balanced on their laps. For once there were no cameras, no titles, no enemies, just two people sharing food in the glow of a crooked lamp. "You're impossible," Naomi murmured as he handed her another forkful. Malik chuckled, the sound low and warm. "And yet you let me in." Her chest tightened as his gaze lingered, steady, unguarded. "Why me, Malik?" she whispered. "You could have anyone. Women who are powerful, rich, educated in your world. Why chase someone like me?" He set his plate down, his eyes locking with hers. "Because when the fire surrounded me, when death was seconds away, you didn't hesitate. You didn't ask who I was, what I could offer, what you'd get in return. You just saved me. And in that moment, Naomi, I knew if I walked away from you, I'd be walking away from the only real thing in my life." Her breath hitched, his words wrapped around her, dangerous and intoxicating. For a heartbeat, the world outside ceased to exist. His hand brushed hers, warm, steady, promising. But reality crashed back in. Naomi pulled away, rising quickly. "Don't!" Her voice trembled. "Don't make promises you can't keep. Your mother's already here. The press, Zara, your world. They'll eat me alive. I can't." He stood, closing the distance between them. His presence towered, yet his voice was gentle. "I don't care what my mother says, or what the press says. The only question is, what do you want?" Naomi's heart thundered. She wanted him. She wanted this moment. But fear won out. She shook her head, stepping back. "I want you to leave." Pain flickered in his eyes, but he inclined his head, regal even in heartbreak. "If that's what you wish." He left quietly, the door clicking shut behind him. Naomi leaned against it, tears burning her eyes, and in the silence of her apartment, she knew the truth. She had just pushed away the one man who saw her as more than the world ever would. Outside on the street, a black car idled. From the tinted window, Queen Mother Adebayo watched Malik leave Naomi's apartment. Her lips curved in cold disdain. "So, this is the girl. The private jet from Adderwale touched down just before dawn, its black hull gleaming under Washington's airport lights. The man who stepped out moved with confidence sharpened by ambition. Lord Darius Kalu, Malik's cousin, was everything a royal heir was meant to be. Tall, poised, tailored in charcoal silk. But where Malik carried quiet command, Darius carried hunger. He had not come to heal wounds or support family. He had come to claim what he'd always believed should be his. "Alert the press I'm here on personal business," he murmured to his aide, "and arrange a meeting with Miss Zara Grant. Tell her, we have interests that align." Hours later, in a glass-walled penthouse, Zara poured herself a flute of champagne as she regarded Darius with thinly veiled curiosity. "So you're the infamous cousin," she said, her tone dripping with both disdain and intrigue. "And you," Darius replied smoothly, "are the senator's daughter who wants what I want." Malik dethroned. Naomi Carter removed. Zara smirked. "Removed? Darling, she was never meant to be here in the first place. She's a pawn, a nuisance, and Malik's obsession with her will be his undoing." Darius leaned forward, eyes sharp as blades. "Then let's undo him together." Meanwhile, Naomi was far from champagne flutes and schemes. She sat in the dim hallway of her building, kneeling beside Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor whose arthritis often left her stranded on the stairs. Malik, impossibly out of place in a simple black hoodie, crouched beside her without hesitation. "Lean on me, Mama," he said gently, lifting the woman as though she weighed nothing. His voice softened, warm in a way Naomi had never heard at the gala or in front of cameras. "We'll get you settled inside." Mrs. Henderson blinked at him. Such manners. "You're too fine for this building, young man." "But thank you." Malik only smiled, helping her into her worn recliner, adjusting the quilt around her shoulders. Naomi watched from the doorway, her chest aching with something she didn't want to name. Later, as they walked down the block together, they passed a playground. Children shrieked with laughter, chasing one another across the cracked pavement. To Naomi's shock, Malik stopped, crouched, and let a boy tug at his sleeve. "Sir, can you push me on the swing?" the boy asked boldly. Naomi expected Malik to wave him off. Instead, he set aside every ounce of princely stiffness, grabbed the chains, and sent the swing soaring into the sky. The boy squealed with delight. Soon others gathered, clinging to his arms, climbing over his legs, peppering him with questions. Malik laughed, not the guarded chuckle of the palace, but the raw laugh of a man free of crowns and expectations. Naomi's breath caught. She saw the man he was when no one was watching, and for the first time, she wondered if she had been wrong to push him away. Her phone buzzed, a new notification. "Royal Love Nest?" Crown Prince spotted sneaking into EMT Naomi Carter's apartment. Her stomach dropped. She opened the gossip site and there it was, a grainy photo of Malik leaving her building at midnight. The caption dripped with venom. "From fire to fling, palace insiders say Malik's American savior may be more than she seems." Naomi's cheeks burned. This isn't fair." Malik glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. "This is how they operate. They twist truth into scandal. Scandal that drags me through the mud," Naomi whispered. Before he could answer, his aide stormed up, breathless. "Your Highness, your mother demands you return to Adderwale immediately. She says your behavior here is unacceptable." The weight in Malik's eyes darkened. Naomi could almost see the invisible crown settle heavier on his head. "She doesn't control me," he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Naomi turned away, her chest tight. This is his life, she realized. Cameras, headlines, orders from across the ocean, and somehow she had been pulled into the middle of it. From across the street, a camera clicked. Darius stood in the shadows, his lens capturing Naomi and Malik together, close enough to be damning. He lowered the camera with a smirk. "Oh, cousin," he whispered to himself, "you've given me the weapon I need." Naomi walked back to her building, Malik lingering at her side despite the chaos. But as she reached her door, a black envelope had been slipped under the frame. She bent, picked it up, and froze at the words written in elegant, threatening script. "You will ruin him. Walk away, or be destroyed." The jet's cabin hummed with quiet luxury, soft leather seats and crystal glasses glittering under dim light. Naomi sat stiffly, her hands folded tightly in her lap, as Malik leaned back across from her, gaze fixed out the oval window. Below, the patchwork of city lights stretched into darkness. She hadn't agreed to this. Not really. One moment she was clutching the black envelope slipped under her apartment door. The next, Malik was insisting she couldn't stay there, that she wasn't safe. "Just for a few days," he had said, voice low, protective, "until we know who's behind the threats." But as the jet descended toward the sprawling Virginia countryside, Naomi's chest tightened. The estate loomed like something out of a dream. Iron gates taller than buildings groaned open, revealing sweeping gardens dotted with marble statues, fountains casting water like liquid glass. The mansion itself rose from the hill like a palace. Columns, balconies, windows glowing golden against the night. Inside, Naomi's sneakers squeaked on marble so polished it reflected her image back at her. Chandeliers dripped with crystals, the air faintly scented with roses and cedar. Everywhere she turned, there was something that screamed wealth. Oil paintings taller than her, silk rugs that muffled every step, mirrors framed in gold. She had grown up in a 2-bedroom apartment with peeling paint. Now she was standing in a world where even the hallways felt sacred. Her chest ached with the contrast. "You don't have to look so afraid," Malik said gently, his voice echoing through the cavernous entryway. Naomi shot him a sharp glance. "Easy for you to say. You belong here. I look like I stumbled in by accident." Malik stepped closer, his hand brushing her elbow. "You belong wherever I am." Before she could respond, the chime of an incoming call rang from the desk in the corner. Malik's aide hurried over, adjusting the massive screen. The image that filled it sent a chill down Naomi's spine. The Queen Mother. She was regal even through pixels, her dark skin glowing beneath a diamond tiara, her gaze sharp enough to cut stone. Behind her, the palace stretched in gleaming arches. "Malik," she said, her tone clipped and cold. "You disgrace me." Malik's jaw tightened. "Mother, do not mother me. I warned you not to let this scandal grow. Now the world whispers that the heir to Adewale has entangled himself with some American girl." Her eyes flicked toward Naomi, the disdain unmistakable. "Do you truly mean to drag this child into the palace?" Naomi's throat closed. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but the Queen's presence was suffocating. "She saved my life," Malik said firmly. "And for that, she can be thanked privately," the Queen snapped. "But she cannot remain by your side. You will return home immediately." The screen went black before Malik could answer. Silence crashed down, heavy as stone. Naomi wrapped her arms around herself. "She hates me." "She doesn't know you," Malik corrected, though his voice was tight. She wanted to believe him, but the memory of the Queen's eyes, icy, unyielding, left her trembling. She slipped into one of the long hallways, hoping space would calm her. Instead, she caught voices drifting from the library. "Temporary distraction." Darius's silky tone floated through the crack in the door. Naomi froze, pressing closer. "She'll be gone soon enough," Darius continued. "Naomi Carter doesn't belong here. She's nothing but a shadow passing through." Malik will see that when he realizes what's at stake. Naomi's chest constricted. Every word sliced through her like glass. She fled back down the corridor, but Malik found her moments later. One look at her pale face, and he knew. "What did you hear?" he demanded softly. "Everything." Her voice cracked. "He's right, isn't he? To you, I'm just a distraction, temporary. Something you'll forget when it's convenient." Malik closed the space between them, his hands cupping her arms. "No, don't let him poison you. You're not temporary, Naomi. You're the one thing in my life that feels real. Do you understand? I won't let them take that from me." Her eyes burned, torn between believing and protecting herself. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her cheek, his lips hovering just above hers. Her heart thundered. For a moment the world vanished. The palace, the Queen, the threats. There was only Malik, his voice low as he whispered, "You're mine, Naomi. If you'll have me." Their lips almost touched, when the heavy doors burst open. "Your Highness!" Malik's guard barked, bowing quickly. "Forgive the intrusion, but your mother's envoys have arrived. They demand an audience immediately." The fragile bubble shattered. Malik's hand slipped from Naomi's arm, his face hardening back into steel. "Tell them to wait," he said coldly. The guard bowed again, retreating. Naomi stood trembling, her lips tingling with what almost was. Malik turned back to her, eyes fierce. "This isn't over," he murmured, but as Naomi stared at the gilded doors, the sound of foreign voices echoing from the hall, She couldn't shake the feeling that stepping into Malik's world hadn't saved her. It had trapped her. Through the balcony doors, Naomi caught sight of Darius below, his phone pressed to his ear, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. And though she couldn't hear his words, she knew. He was setting the next trap. The ballroom glittered with expectation, but Malik did not take his seat at the head table. He stood instead, tall and unyielding, his voice cutting through the polite hum of conversation. "I will not dine with Zara Grant," he said flatly. Gasps rippled through the room. Senators exchanged startled glances. Cameras pivoted like predators finding fresh prey. Zara's painted smile froze, the champagne flute trembling in her fingers. "Excuse me?" she said, her tone syrupy but strained. Malik's dark eyes never wavered. "I owe you nothing, Zara. This charade ends here." The silence that followed was explosive. Zara's cheeks flushed crimson. Around them, whispers swelled into a storm. Naomi, standing off to the side, felt her knees weaken as every eye turned, not to Zara, but to her, because Malik had chosen. She barely had time to register the heat of it before he was beside her, his arm sliding protectively around her waist. Cameras flashed like lightning. Click, click, click. Naomi froze under the assault of light, the reporter's shouts slicing through the air. "Prince Malik, is this your new girlfriend?" "Who is she?" "Are you replacing a senator's daughter with this American girl?" She tried to step back, but Malik's grip held her firmly. His voice was low, meant for her alone. "Breathe. I've got you." Her heart hammered, her face burning under the relentless stares. This wasn't protection, it felt like exposure. Within hours, the headlines screamed across every screen. "Crown Prince spurns political match for American EMT. Love or recklessness? Malik chooses commoner. Over tradition." Naomi's phone buzzed relentlessly. Imani sent frantic messages filled with emojis and exclamation points. But the call she dreaded came from Marcus. She answered in a trembling whisper. "Marcus, are you out of your mind?" His voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "Do you see the news? He had his arm around you in front of half the damn world. Do you know what that makes you look like?" Naomi's throat tightened. "I didn't ask for this." "Doesn't matter. This is how it works. The press doesn't care if you're innocent. To them you're a scandal, a toy. And when he's done with you, Naomi, you'll be nothing but a headline buried under tomorrow's news." Tears stung her eyes. "He's not like that." Marcus's silence was heavy. Finally. "You want to believe that. But I've seen powerful men ruin good women. Don't let him be your ruin." The line went dead. Naomi sat clutching her phone, her chest aching. Later, Malik found her in the estate's garden, the night air cool against her damp cheeks. "They're tearing me apart," she whispered, staring at the headlines glowing from her phone. He crouched in front of her, his hands warm on her knees. "Let them." "Naomi, the world can say what it wants. What matters is what we know. You saved me. You are not a scandal. You are my truth." His words were steady, but Naomi couldn't ignore the dread in her chest, because while he spoke of truth, the world spun lies faster than either of them could contain. The next morning, her fear was confirmed. Naomi woke to Imani's frantic call. "Girl, have you seen Instagram?" Naomi's stomach dropped. "What now?" "Check Zara's account." Hands shaking, Naomi opened the app. Her blood ran cold. There, splashed across Zara's page for millions to see, was a glittering diamond ring on Zara's finger. The caption read, "When a prince knows what he wants, he makes it official. #FuturePrincess." The comments exploded with speculation. Some congratulated her. Others asked if this was revenge. But all of them mentioned Naomi, mocking her, pitying her, calling her nothing more than a placeholder, her chest constricted, the air too thin. She barely noticed Malik entering the room until his shadow loomed over her. "Naomi, is it true?" she demanded, holding up her phone, her voice trembling with fury. His eyes darkened. "No. You know it's not. I don't know anything." The words ripped from her like fire. "I didn't know you were a prince until it was too late. I didn't know your world would turn me into a spectacle. And now I don't know if I'm supposed to believe you when the entire world is showing me otherwise." He stepped forward, reaching for her, but she backed away, shaking her head. "I can't do this. I can't compete with crowns and politics and women who wear diamonds like candy. I'm not your world, Malik. I'll never be." Her voice broke on the last word. She shoved past him, storming down the hall, her heels clicking against marble until the sound faded. Malik stood frozen, fury boiling under his skin, not at her, but at the web tightening around them. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the estate, two senators whispered over glasses of scotch. "She's unsuitable," one muttered. "More than unsuitable. Dangerous. A prince distracted is a throne weakened, and the queen will never allow it." Unbeknownst to them, Naomi had paused near the doorway, their words slicing into her already bleeding heart. Unsuitable. Dangerous. A distraction. The words echoed louder than her own doubts. Naomi fled into the garden, the night air biting her skin. She thought she was alone, until she looked up and saw a flash, a camera lens glinting from the hedges, another photo, another headline, and this time, she realized with a shudder, someone wanted to destroy her deliberately. Naomi's footsteps echoed on the cracked pavement as she hurried through the night, tears hot against her cheeks. She didn't stop until she reached the old brick house on the corner, its porch light glowing like a beacon. She knocked hard, her chest heaving. Marcus answered in a t-shirt and sweatpants, his expression tightening the moment he saw her. "Naomi?" What happened? She pushed past him into the small, cluttered living room. "I can't. Marcus, I can't do this anymore." "It's too much." He closed the door firmly behind her. "Sit down." But Naomi couldn't sit. She paced, wringing her hands. "The press, the lies, the queen, Zara, everyone's tearing me apart. I thought Malik was different, but maybe he's not. Maybe I'm just—" A knock interrupted her spiraling words. Marcus frowned, stepping to the window, his face darkened. "Of course." Naomi's heart skipped. "Who—" The door opened, and there he was. Malik. He filled the doorway, his expression tight but steady. "Naomi, please, we need to talk." Marcus stepped in front of his sister like a shield. "No. What you need to do is leave her alone." Malik's voice was calm, but edged with steel. "With respect, Marcus, that's not your decision to make." "The hell it isn't." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "She's my sister. I've seen men like you before. You say sweet things, you make promises, and when you're done, you walk away. I won't let you destroy her." Naomi gripped Marcus's arm, her voice strained. "Marcus, stop." But Malik stepped forward, his gaze locked on her brother. "You think I don't understand what it means to protect her? I've spent my whole life being guarded, controlled, used as a pawn, and for once, I found someone who doesn't see me as a crown. Someone who sees me. I won't let anyone take that from me. Not even you." The room fell silent. Marcus's jaw clenched, but Naomi saw the flicker in his eyes, the grudging recognition that Malik's words weren't empty. Still, Marcus shook his head. "Words are cheap. Prove it. Until then, stay away." Naomi couldn't bear the tension. She slipped past Marcus, her hand trembling as she gestured Malik toward the porch. "Outside, please." The night air was cool, the street lamp casting golden shadows on the cracked sidewalk. Malik stood close, his eyes searching hers. "I didn't want to fight your brother," he said softly, "but I couldn't let him think I was here to play games with you." Naomi's voice shook. "Then why does it feel like a game?" "Every time I start to trust you, another headline drops. Another lie, another reason to doubt." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Because my life is a cage, Naomi. You see glamour, wealth, power, but what you don't see is the loneliness. As a child, I wasn't allowed friends who weren't vetted. Every word I spoke was rehearsed, every smile photographed. I grew up surrounded by gold, but I never belonged to myself. And now," his voice cracked, just slightly, "now I look at you, and for the first time, I feel free." Her heart clenched. She had never heard him so raw, so stripped of arrogance. In that moment, he wasn't a prince. He was just a man, broken and yearning. Naomi's breath trembled. "Malik." He stepped closer, slowly, as if afraid she'd bolt. His hand brushed her cheek, rough warmth against her skin. "I'm not asking you to trust the crown, or my world. Just trust me." Her eyes fluttered shut. Against her will, against her fear, she leaned into his touch. Their lips met, soft, tentative at first, then deeper, desperate as if both had been starving for this moment. The kiss stole her breath, grounding her and setting her ablaze all at once. She clutched his shirt, pulling him closer, her heart racing. For one blissful heartbeat, the world outside vanished. The press, the Queen, Zara, Marcus, all of it drowned beneath the certainty of Malik's mouth on hers. And then the faint click of a camera shattered the moment. Naomi pulled back, breathless, eyes darting toward the shadows across the street. But there was nothing, just the whisper of leaves. Malik's gaze sharpened. "What is it?" "Nothing," she lied quickly, though dread pooled in her stomach, because somewhere, unseen, Darius lowered his camera, a triumphant smile curving his lips. The photo would be worth more than gold. The prince kissing the American girl in the dead of night, a scandal ripe for destruction. Back on the porch, Malik pressed his forehead against Naomi's, his voice low. "I don't care what they say tomorrow, or the day after. This—" He brushed his thumb over her lips. "This is real." Tears burned Naomi's eyes. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to hold on to this fragile bubble of warmth, but the weight of the world pressed against her chest, whispering of headlines and betrayal. She stepped back, hugging herself. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for your world, Malik." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed the fear beneath. "Then I'll be strong enough for both of us." Inside the house, Marcus peered out the window, jaw tight. He had seen the kiss, and though part of him saw the truth in Malik's eyes, another part whispered of danger. "I won't let her get hurt," he muttered to himself. And across the city, Darius sent the damning photograph to the Queen's private line. Naomi's phone buzzed as she stepped out of class, her backpack heavy on her shoulders. She pulled it out, expecting a text from Marcus or Imani. Instead, her blood ran cold. "Stay away from him, or you'll regret it." Her fingers tightened around the phone. She looked around the campus courtyard, but the students passing by were lost in their own worlds. No one was watching her, or maybe everyone was. A second buzz. "You don't belong with a prince. Walk away before it's too late." Her throat closed. The words weren't just threats, they were promises. That night, she sat at Marcus's kitchen table, the phone between them. He read the messages, jaw tightening. "This is what I warned you about. You're in the crosshairs now. Malik's enemies won't fight him directly. They'll come for you." Naomi hugged herself. "What am I supposed to do? Pretend I don't care? Pretend I didn't—" She stopped short, biting her lip. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Didn't what?" Her cheeks burned. "Nothing." he sighed, scrubbing a hand over his face. Naomi, this man's world will eat you alive. You're not built for that kind of war. Before she could answer, her phone lit up again, this time Imani. Girl! Imani's voice burst through, bright as ever. Why are you hiding? Do you even know what women would give to be in your shoes? You saved a prince. You kissed a prince. Don't even deny it. The blogs are already speculating. And what are you doing? Sitting in your brother's kitchen like a scared rabbit. Naomi groaned. Imani, no, listen to me. Her best friend's voice softened. You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Your mum, Marcus, your neighbors, strangers bleeding out in ambulances. For once, life handed you something extraordinary. Stop pushing it away because you're afraid the line went quiet. Naomi swallowed hard. Imani's words clung to her as she walked home later, the city lights blurring around her. Afraid. That was what she was. Afraid of Malik's world, afraid of the headlines, afraid of losing herself in a crown that wasn't hers. But when she opened the estate gates, Malik was waiting. He stood by the fountain, his expression carved from stone. In his hand, a folded note, his knuckles white. Darius came to me tonight, he said, without preamble. Naomi froze. What did he want? Malik's jaw tightened. He told me to step aside, to give him the throne, or he'll destroy you. The words hit her like a blow. Destroy me? How? Malik handed her the note. It was a printout of the kiss. Her and Malik on Marcus's porch. Intimate, undeniable. Below it, scribbled in Darius's hand, if you love her, you'll walk away. Or I'll make sure she never walks in peace again. Naomi's legs gave out. She sank onto the fountain's edge, the image burning into her eyes. Her life, her dignity, weaponized. Malik crouched beside her, his voice low but fierce. I swear to you, I won't let him touch you. I'd give up everything, my title, my inheritance, my crown, before I let him harm you. Her eyes flew to his, wide and desperate. No! Malik, you can't. You fought your whole life to be more than a pawn. If you give that up for me, what will you have left? He reached for her hand, his grip firm, almost pleading. I'll have you. That's enough. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't say that. Don't you dare put that weight on me. Your throne, your people, it's bigger than both of us. You can't throw it away for me. I won't let you. His lips pressed into a hard line. For once, the unshakable prince looked fragile, torn apart by the battle inside him. Naomi touched his cheek, her thumb brushing the bruise still fading near his temple. I don't need you to be a man who sacrifices everything for me. I need you to be the man who fights for what's right, even if it means fighting me too. Malik closed his eyes, leaning into her touch for one fleeting moment. When he opened them again, the fire was back. Then I'll fight them all. Darius, my mother, the world itself. But I won't let you go. Naomi's chest ached with a mix of fear and longing. She believed him, and that terrified her more than the threats, because if Malik was willing to burn the crown for her, then she was the one who might ruin him. As Malik pulled her into his arms, shielding her from the night's chill, Naomi's phone buzzed again. She glanced down at the screen. Last warning. If you don't leave him, next time it won't be words. It will be blood. Her fingers trembled, the message reflected in Malik's fierce eyes. The war had begun. The estate buzzed with tension long before Naomi saw the convoy. Black cars glided up the circular driveway, engines purring like predators. Guards in tailored uniforms spilled out, their movements sharp and precise. Naomi watched from the second-floor balcony, her heart hammering in her chest. And then she stepped out. Queen Mother Adebayo was a vision of power. Draped in emerald silk, a crown of diamonds glinting even in the pale afternoon light, she moved with the certainty of a woman who had commanded nations. Her gaze swept the estate like a blade, cutting through walls, through people, until it found Malik. "My son," she said, her voice deep and resonant. Malik bowed, the movement stiff. "Mother." Naomi lingered on the balcony, hoping she could remain unseen, but the Queen's gaze lifted, sharp as glass, and locked onto her. "Bring her down," the Queen commanded. Every eye turned upward. Naomi's legs felt like stone as she descended the marble staircase. The silence was suffocating, the echo of her heels far too loud. Malik moved to meet her at the bottom, his hand brushing hers, a gesture meant to steady, though his mother's lips tightened at the sight. "This," the Queen said, her voice laced with disdain, "is the girl?" Naomi forced herself to stand straighter. "Naomi Carter, Your Majesty." The Queen circled her slowly, appraising her like a jeweler examining a flawed stone. "An EMT student, American, a commoner. Do you know what the world whispers about you, child? That you are an embarrassment, that my son drags his country through mud for the sake of infatuation." Heat rushed to Naomi's face, but she held her ground. "With respect, Your Majesty, I never asked for this. I only pulled a man out of a burning car. The rest came to me." The Queen's laugh was cold. "And yet you stayed." "Because," Naomi faltered, then steadied. "Because he asked me to." Gasps rippled through the entourage. Speaking back to the Queen was unthinkable, but Malik's jaw tightened with pride. "She saved me, Mother. And she is not leaving." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Then hear me clearly, Malik. If you continue this foolishness, you will forfeit your inheritance. The crown, the estates, the throne itself, everything. Adderwell will pass to your cousin, who at least understands duty." Naomi's stomach dropped. She glanced at Malik, waiting for him to waver, but he stood tall, unflinching. "Then let it pass," he said evenly, "because I will not cast her aside." The Queen's face darkened, her fury vibrating through the air. Zara chose that moment to step forward, her gown shimmering like liquid silver. "Your Majesty," she said sweetly, bowing low. Then she turned, her smile venomous as she met Naomi's eyes. "You see, I could be the daughter you deserve, a woman of stature, grace, and breeding. Not this." Naomi's hands clenched at her sides, shame prickling hot across her skin. Zara's every word was a reminder of what Naomi wasn't, and what she could never be. The Queen rested a hand on Zara's shoulder, approval flickering in her gaze. "Yes, at least this one knows her place." Naomi's chest tightened, the room blurred around her, she couldn't breathe. Later, in the privacy of her borrowed suite, she sank onto the bed, tears spilling unchecked. The Queen's words replayed over and over. Embarrassment, commoner, infatuation. She buried her face in her hands. Maybe they were right. Maybe she was nothing but a shadow in Malik's glittering world. Through the walls, she heard the muffled voices of Malik's advisors. "Your Highness, you must see reason. The girl is unsuitable. The Queen will strip everything from you. For the good of the kingdom, end this now." Naomi pressed her hands tighter against her ears, but the words seeped through anyway, each one slicing deeper. When Malik entered later, she wiped at her eyes quickly. "They're right, Malik," she whispered. "I don't belong here." "I never will." He crossed the room, kneeling in front of her, his hands firm on her trembling ones. "Naomi, look at me." Her eyes met his. "You are worth more than all of this," he said fiercely. "The gold, the thrones, the crowns, they mean nothing if I don't have you. Let them call you what they want. To me, you are everything." Her heart ached with longing, with fear, with hope she couldn't allow herself to hold. Because even as Malik's voice wrapped around her like a vow, she knew the storm was only beginning. Out in the hall, Zara smirked as she slipped her phone into her clutch. She had captured Naomi's breakdown on video. Tears, trembling words, all of it. And by morning, the world would see the American girl not as a heroine, but as a weak, weeping imposter. The estate was suffocating with whispers, cameras, and cold eyes. Malik knew if he didn't pull Naomi out of it, he would lose her to fear. So one night, without warning, he appeared in her room, his voice low but urgent. "Pack a bag. Just for the weekend?" Naomi blinked. "What?" "Malik, your mother is not invited." His smile was sharp, boyish, almost reckless. "Neither is Darius. Neither is Zara. Just you and me. Please." She hesitated, but when he extended his hand, she couldn't refuse. Hours later, they drove north, leaving the city lights behind, the world narrowing to winding forest roads and the hum of tires against asphalt. When the car finally pulled into a secluded lakeside cabin, Naomi gasped. The place was nothing like the gilded palaces Malik had dragged her through. It was warm wood, soft lamplight, windows looking out over a moonlit lake that glittered like glass. No chandeliers, no cameras, no guards, just quiet. Naomi stepped onto the deck, the cool night air brushing her face. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe. "Do you like it?" Malik asked, leaning in the doorway, hands in his pockets. She turned, unable to hide her smile. "It's perfect." The weekend unfolded like a dream Naomi never thought she'd be allowed. They cooked together, Malik burning toast while she laughed until tears rolled down her cheeks. They walked barefoot along the lake's edge, skipping stones that barely bounced. They danced in the living room to old R&B on Malik's phone, their bodies swaying close, his hand steady at her waist. For a few precious hours, the crown didn't exist. There was only Malik, warm and solid and heartbreakingly human. One night, as they sat on the deck, watching the stars, Naomi's laughter faded into a quiet she couldn't escape. She looked at him, at the man who should have been untouchable, and felt her chest ache. "I shouldn't say this," she whispered. Malik's brow furrowed. "Say what?" Her voice trembled. "That I'm falling for you." The air stilled. Malik turned fully toward her, his gaze fierce, unwavering. "You think that's something to hide?" he asked softly. "Naomi, I've been falling since the moment you dragged me out of fire." She laughed nervously, shaking her head. "That's adrenaline talking." "No." He reached into his pocket, pulling out something small, a bracelet, delicate but heavy, gold etched with ancient patterns. A single emerald gleamed at its center. "This belonged to my grandmother," he said. "She gave it to me before she died, told me to give it only to the woman I'd trust with my life." He slid it onto Naomi's wrist, his fingers lingering against her skin. "Now it's yours." Naomi stared at it, her throat tight. "Malik." But whatever words she meant to say were swallowed as he cupped her cheek, his lips pressing to hers. This kiss was different, deeper, certain, sealing promises neither of them dared speak aloud. And somewhere in the woods beyond, hidden in shadows, Darius watched through a lens, his hand clenched around the camera, fury blazing in his eyes. Every touch, every smile, every kiss between them was a threat to the throne he coveted. He would not let it continue. The weekend ended too quickly. As the car wound back through the narrow mountain roads, Naomi leaned against Malik's shoulder, her heart light, despite the storm waiting for them at the estate. For once, she dared to imagine a future, one where love was stronger than politics. Then the car jolted, the driver cursed, jerking the wheel. "Your Highness! The brakes!" Naomi's head snapped up. The engine roared too loud, the car barreling faster down the twisting slope. Her stomach dropped. Malik's hand gripped hers. "Hold on." The car swerved, tires screeching as the mountain edge loomed too close. Naomi's mind flashed back to fire, to twisted metal, to the moment she had dragged Malik from death. Not again, she thought. Not like this. The driver wrestled the wheel, but the car careened off the road, crashing through the guardrail. Naomi screamed as they plunged, branches shattering against the windshield. Instinct took over. She shoved Malik's head down, covering him with her body, as glass exploded around them. The car slammed against a tree, metal shrieking, before lurching to a violent stop. Silence, broken only by the hiss of the ruined engine. Naomi's ears rang, her chest heaving. Malik groaned beneath her, his hand gripping her waist. "Naomi, are you hurt?" She pulled back, breathless, glass glittering in her hair. "I'm fine," her voice cracked. "You?" He nodded, blood trickling from a cut above his brow. His hand rose, brushing her cheek tenderly, even as his own shook. "You saved me." Again tears spilled hot down her face. "Don't you dare make me do this a third time." Malik let out a broken laugh, pulling her against his chest. "Then I suppose I'll just have to stay alive, for you." In the distance, faint voices echoed, guards scrambling down the hillside. But Naomi clung to him, her heart pounding with the realization that she would throw herself into fire, into wreckage, into anything, if it meant keeping him safe. At the crash site above, a guard picked up the twisted remains of the brake line. His face paled. "This wasn't an accident," he murmured. "Someone wanted them dead." The night reeked of gasoline and smoke. Naomi's ears rang as she struggled to sit up, the taste of blood sharp on her tongue. The car around them was mangled steel, glass glittering like diamonds in the moonlight. Malik's arm was locked protectively around her, his chest rising and falling hard. "Naomi, speak to me," he said, his voice hoarse, frantic. "I'm here," she whispered, though pain stabbed through her shoulder when she moved. He exhaled raggedly, pressing his forehead against hers. "Thank God." The crunch of boots on gravel echoed as guards swarmed down the hillside with flashlights. "Your Highness!" one shouted, yanking the door open. "We have you!" Malik ignored them, his focus pinned on Naomi. He carried her out himself, refusing help, his shirt torn and streaked with blood. She felt the strength of his arms, but also the tremor in them. For all his titles, for all his power, in this moment he was just a man terrified of losing her. Paramedics met them at the road above. Naomi winced as they checked her vitals, the bright beam of a flashlight making her squint. "She's got a dislocated shoulder, bruised ribs," one muttered. "Possible concussion." Malik's hand never left hers. "Fix her. Do whatever it takes. Your Highness, we need to look at you too," the medic insisted. "I said fix her first," Malik snapped, his voice sharper than steel. The medic didn't argue. By the time they reached the hospital, reporters had already gathered. Cameras flashed, questions shouted, the crowd pressing like a storm against the barricades. "Prince Malik, was it an assassination attempt? Is the American girl your fiancée? Will this scandal end your royal claim?" Naomi flinched against the barrage, the stretcher rolling too fast, too exposed. Malik walked beside her, his jaw clenched, his glare daring anyone to touch her. Inside the emergency ward, chaos dimmed to the sterile hum of machines. Naomi lay on the bed, her arm strapped into a sling, her head bandaged lightly. Malik sat at her side, refusing to leave even as doctors tried to usher him out. "This wasn't an accident," Malik muttered, staring at the floor as if he could burn holes through it. "The brakes were cut." Deliberately, Naomi's stomach dropped. "Who would—" "Darius." The name was venom on Malik's tongue. "He's been circling us like a vulture, waiting." This is his signature. She reached for his hand, trembling. Do you have proof? His silence was answer enough. His chest heaved with helpless rage. Hours passed. Guards stood outside the door, whispers of security breach and royal scandal drifting down the hall. Naomi drifted in and out of exhausted half-sleep, each time waking to Malik still there, his fingers laced with hers, his eyes shadowed with worry. At dawn, the door burst open. A flood of reporters shoved cameras forward before guards shoved them back, but not before flashes exploded in Naomi's eyes. Look at her, bandaged, clinging to him. An EMT who thinks she's a queen. Will she be Ada Wales' downfall? The guards forced them out, but Naomi couldn't shake the whispers. She turned her face into the pillow, her voice breaking. I can't do this. I can't live under their eyes, under their knives. Malik bent close, his hand steady against her cheek. Naomi, no. Tears blurred her vision. You deserve someone who can stand beside you, who doesn't crumble every time the world spits on her. I can't even walk down a hall without feeling like I'm drowning. Maybe I don't belong in your world. The words cut deeper than any blade. Malik's throat worked, his face hardening as if to shield the hurt. Don't say that! Don't you dare! She turned away, her body shaking. In the hallway beyond, Lord Darius leaned casually against the wall, phone in hand, smirk curving his lips. He scrolled through the images already flooding social media, the prince at Naomi's bedside, her bandaged head tilted toward him, his hand clutching hers. The captions wrote themselves. Crown Prince risks kingdom for fragile American lover. Injured commoner holds royal heir in scandal's grip. Darius tucked the phone into his pocket, satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. Bleed, cousin, he murmured. Bleed until there's nothing left to give her. Back inside, Malik lowered himself into the chair, exhausted but unyielding. They will not win, he whispered fiercely, half to Naomi, half to himself. Darius, my mother, the press, none of them. I swear to you, Naomi, I'll burn every bridge before I let them take you from me. Naomi shut her eyes, her heart breaking with both love and dread, because deep down she feared his promise was already costing him everything. As the machines hummed quietly, Naomi's phone buzzed once more on the bedside table. With trembling fingers, she lifted it. A single message glared back. Next time, it won't be the brakes. It'll be him. Naomi had never hated the sound of cameras more. The hospital doors slid open, and in an instant, the world pounced. A wall of paparazzi swarmed forward, flashes exploding, voices overlapping in a frenzy. There she is, his little gold digger. Naomi, are you pregnant with the prince's child? Do you think you can buy your way into a crown? Naomi flinched, her arm still sore in its sling. Malik's security tried to shield her, but the insults pierced through like arrows. Charity case, one woman screamed. Sell out! Another sneered. Her chest tightened, humiliation burning hotter than any wound. She wanted to run, to disappear, but Malik was at her side, his hand steady on her back, guiding her firmly to the waiting car. Don't look at them, he whispered, but she already had, and what she saw was hatred. Inside the car, silence fell heavy. Naomi pressed her forehead against the glass, tears burning. Malik reached for her hand, but she pulled away, staring out at the blur of flashing lights. By the time they reached the estate, the headlines were already everywhere. Screens in the lobby blared them in bold letters. From hero to harpy, the prince's gold digger exposed. Video leaks, Naomi Carter in tears, weak, unfit, unworthy. Naomi's stomach dropped as she recognized the footage. Her in her suite, weeping after the Queen's cutting words. Zara's recording, now broadcast to millions. She covered her face with her hands. They've destroyed me. Malik's jaw clenched, fury radiating from him. "I'll shut it down." "How?" she whispered. "You can't fight the entire world." His silence was answer enough. That evening, the Queen summoned him. Naomi stayed behind, pacing the room, her chest heavy with dread. Hours later, Malik returned, his face pale, his shoulders rigid. "She gave me an ultimatum," he said flatly. Naomi's breath caught. "What kind?" His eyes met hers, dark and torn. "Her words, 'Choose your throne or this girl. You cannot have both.'" The air seemed to vanish. Naomi's knees weakened, her heart thundering painfully. "What did you say?" she whispered. Malik exhaled shakily, raking a hand through his hair. "I told her I choose you." Tears welled instantly, but not the kind he hoped for. Naomi shook her head, backing away. "No, Malik." "You can't." He froze. "Naomi, you can't throw away your country, your people, everything you've spent your whole life preparing for. Just for me." Her voice cracked. "Don't you see? They'll never accept me. And if you try to force it, they'll destroy you. And me. And everything you stand for." Malik's eyes blazed. "I don't care." "Well, I do," she screamed, the words tearing from her throat. "I care because I love you, Malik. And I won't let my love be the reason you lose everything." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Malik's breath caught, his eyes softening with both pain and awe. "You love me?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes, and that's why I have to let you go." "No," he growled, closing the space, his hands gripping her arms. "Don't say that. Don't you dare leave me." Her lips trembled. "If I stay, you'll lose everything. If I leave, maybe you'll hate me, but at least you'll still have your throne, your future." She kissed him then, desperate and broken, pouring every ounce of love into that fleeting moment, and then she tore herself away, slipping out the door before he could stop her. "Naomi!" he shouted, his voice raw, echoing down the hall. But guards approached, bowing quickly. "Your Highness, the Queen requires your presence at the gala." Now Malik's chest heaved. He wanted to run after Naomi, to break free, but duty's chains yanked tight. He was shoved into a tuxedo, into a car, into a ballroom filled with flashing cameras and glittering gowns. And at his side, smiling triumphantly, was Zara. She slid her arm through his as photographers snapped, her diamond ring gleaming under the lights. "Smile, darling," she whispered. "The world is watching." Meanwhile, across town, Naomi sat in Marcus's apartment, watching the televised gala on his old TV. Her heart cracked as she saw Malik standing beside Zara, expression unreadable, flashes exploding around them. The headlines rolled across the bottom of the screen. "Royal unity restored. Prince Malik reappears with suitable match." Naomi hugged her knees to her chest, silent tears streaming. "I told you," Marcus muttered grimly. "He belongs to them, not you." But Imani shook her head, her arms crossed defiantly. "No. Look at his eyes. That man is dying inside. He's there because he has to be, not because he wants to be." Naomi buried her face in her hands, torn between their voices, between her love and her fear. Back at the gala, Malik endured the evening like a man walking through fire. He held Zara's arm, he endured the speeches, the toasts, the photos, but every moment his eyes flicked to the doors, hoping Naomi would burst through. Instead, he saw Darius in the corner, smirking as he raised a glass. Later, when the cameras dimmed and the ballroom emptied, Darius approached, his voice low and poisonous. "You see? The world accepts her, not Naomi. If you want peace, if you want your throne, you know what you must do." Malik's jaw tightened, his fists clenching. "You won't win." Darius leaned closer, his smile sharp. "I already have. Because the girl you love is gone, and I'll make sure she never comes back." Naomi stood at the window of Marcus's apartment, staring out at the city lights. Her phone buzzed. Another anonymous message glowed on the screen. You made the right choice leaving him, because if you hadn't, he'd already be dead. She dropped the phone, her heart shattering all over again. The city was a blur of neon lights and honking horns. When Naomi stepped out of Marcus's apartment that night, she told herself she just needed air, just a walk to clear her head. But deep down, she knew she was running, from the TV replaying Malik's gala with Zara, from Marcus's constant warnings, from her own heart that ached with every breath. Her phone buzzed. One last chance. Meet me. Tonight. Or Malik suffers. Her blood went cold. She glanced over her shoulder, but the street was empty, just shadows stretching long beneath flickering lamps. She should have gone back upstairs, should have shown Marcus, should have ignored it, but instead, her legs carried her forward, fear and love chaining her to the message. She never saw the black car until it pulled alongside her. The door yanked open. A hand seized her arm. She screamed, then the world vanished into darkness. At the estate, Malik stood in the grand study, fists clenched as his mother's words echoed. You humiliated our family on national television. You paraded that girl's weakness before the world. And still you defy me. She is not weak, Malik growled. She is your ruin. The Queen snapped, diamonds flashing on her wrist as she slammed a hand against the desk. You will marry Zara. You will secure the throne, and you will forget this girl before she destroys everything. Malik's phone buzzed. He snatched it up, his chest tightening at the message flashing across the screen. We have her. Naomi. His vision blurred red. He turned on his mother, voice low and dangerous. If anything happens to her, you will not have a son to command. You will have a ghost, Malik. But he was already gone, storming past guards, past Zara's feigned look of concern. Zara caught his sleeve briefly, her nails digging in. Where are you going? Your place is here, with me. He shook her off, eyes blazing. My place is with Naomi. Naomi woke to the stench of oil and rust. The room was dim, a single bulb swinging overhead, casting harsh shadows across cracked concrete. Her hands were bound, her shoulder screaming in protest from the rough rope. Finally awake! A smooth voice purred. Her head jerked up. Lord Darius stepped out of the shadows, his tailored suit incongruous against the filth of the warehouse. What do you want from me? She spat, though her voice shook. He crouched before her, tilting his head like a predator studying prey. You've taken something that doesn't belong to you. Malik. The crown. My birthright, and I intend to take it back. Naomi's pulse raced. He's your family. Darius's smile was razor-sharp. Family is nothing. Power is everything. And you, little EMT, are in my way. He stood, pacing slowly. Walk away permanently. Leave the city. Disappear. Or the next accident won't be so merciful. Malik won't survive a second time. Naomi's throat closed. You're a monster. No. Darius's eyes gleamed. I'm the future. Malik's car screeched to a halt outside the warehouse, guards scrambling after him. Your Highness, wait! But he was already kicking open the door, fury propelling him forward. Naomi! His voice echoed through the cavernous space. Darius stepped from the shadows, smirking. Cousin. Naomi twisted against her bonds, eyes wide. Malik, don't... But he was already charging, his fist connected with Darius's jaw, the sound cracking through the air. Darius staggered back, then lunged, tackling Malik to the ground. The two men grappled, the clash of royalty stripped bare. No titles, no crowns, just rage and betrayal. You were never fit to rule, Darius snarled, his hands closing around Malik's throat. And you'll never touch her again. Malik spat, shoving him back with a burst of strength. Naomi's heart pounded. She rocked against the chair, the rope biting into her wrists. Finally, it gave way with a snap. She grabbed the nearest thing, a rusted metal pipe, and swung with all her strength. The pipe cracked against Darius's shoulder. He cursed, stumbling. Malik surged up, delivering a final blow that sent Darius sprawling unconscious to the floor. Breathing hard, Malik turned to her. "Naomi!" She dropped the pipe, tears streaming, and collapsed into his arms. He held her fiercely, his chest heaving against hers. "I thought I lost you." "You almost did," she whispered, clinging to him. For a moment the world disappeared, just their ragged breaths, their trembling hands, their desperate relief. But footsteps thundered outside. Malik's guards rushed in, their faces pale. "Your Highness, we must go. Now. The Queen has been informed of your actions." Malik tightened his grip on Naomi, his gaze hardened with resolve. "Then let her know. I choose Naomi, and I'll face whatever storm comes next." Naomi buried her face in his chest, both terrified and awed by his defiance, because she knew this wasn't just rebellion, this was war. Back at the palace, the Queen received the report. Her diamonds glittered coldly under the chandelier as she stared down at the phone, Darius's unconscious form shown in grainy photos. "Summon the council," she ordered, her voice like ice. "If my son insists on choosing this girl, then he will no longer be my son." The convoy rolled through the estate gates like a funeral procession. Black cars lined with tinted glass, guards tense, every eye fixed on the prince who had defied his crown. Malik held Naomi's hand the entire ride back, his jaw clenched, his body rigid with fury. She sat beside him in silence, her heart thundering as dread churned inside her. By the time they reached the palace hall, the air itself seemed heavier. Gold pillars loomed, banners of Adewale's crest hung high, and the Queen sat upon a throne-like chair at the center of a long table, surrounded by council members, senators, generals, diplomats, all with sharp eyes and sharper tongues. Naomi's throat tightened. She was no longer just an EMT girl from DC. She was standing in the lion's den. "Bring them forward," the Queen commanded. Malik's hand tightened on hers as they walked to the center of the hall. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters crammed along the back wall, despite the supposed privacy of the meeting. Zara was there too, glittering in a crimson gown, her smile sharp with victory. "This council convenes," the Queen began, her voice like steel, "to address the disgrace brought upon this family. My son has endangered our throne by consorting with—" Her eyes slid to Naomi, dripping with contempt. "A commoner who weakens us with every headline." Zara stepped forward with a theatrical sigh. "Your Majesty, if I may—" She turned to the council, her hand dramatically brushing her chest. "We all know what must be done. Malik has obligations. His people deserve a future queen worthy of the crown. I am ready to serve." Unlike her, she flicked a look of disdain at Naomi. Naomi's cheeks burned, shame threatening to drown her. Malik opened his mouth, but before he could speak, heavy footsteps echoed. Guards dragged a bound figure into the hall. Darius. He still managed a smirk despite his bruised jaw. "Well, isn't this a reunion?" The Queen raised a brow. "Explain yourself." Darius tilted his head toward Malik and Naomi. "Explain what? That while Malik plays at love, he drags our name through dirt? That the entire world mocks Adewale because of a girl who doesn't know which fork to use at dinner?" Laughter rippled among Zara's circle. "And if words aren't enough," Darius continued, signaling to an aide, "perhaps proof will suffice." Screens flickered to life along the hall. Grainy photos filled the room. Malik and Naomi kissing on Marcus's porch, Malik slipping into her apartment late at night, Naomi crying alone in her suite, whispers hissed like snakes through the council chamber. Indecent. Embarrassing. Unfit. Naomi's stomach dropped. She wanted to vanish, to disappear into the marble floor. Darius smiled. You see? A prince humiliated by his own obsession. If Malik truly loves Adewale, he will step aside. Let the throne pass to me. Where it belongs. The queen's eyes glittered with approval. At last, you speak sense. But then Malik stepped forward, voice low but resonant. No. Enough. The room stilled. Malik's gaze swept the council. You speak of humiliation, of weakness, but where were you when fire nearly consumed me? Where were you when my car was driven off a cliff? His voice thundered, echoing. It was Naomi who saved me. Twice. She risked her life while others only whispered. You call her weak? She is stronger than all of you. Gasps rippled through the room. Naomi's chest clenched, tears blurring her vision. Malik turned to his mother. You want me to choose? Then hear me. I choose her. If that means renouncing my title, my inheritance, then so be it. I will not give her up. The queen's face darkened, her fury palpable. You would throw away a kingdom for a girl? Yes, Malik said without hesitation. Naomi's knees trembled. She squeezed his hand desperately. No. Malik, don't. But her voice was drowned by another. Enough! All eyes turned to the back of the hall, where a new screen lit up. Footage rolled, grainy at first, then clear. The burning car, Malik trapped, Naomi smashing the window, dragging him free as flames roared. The video cut to the mountain crash. Naomi shielding Malik's body with her own, blood streaking her face, her arm locked around him. The council chamber erupted in shock. Is that real? She risked her life, twice. She saved the heir. Naomi turned, stunned. In the crowd, Imani grinned wildly, her phone raised. I uploaded it last night. She mouthed. The tide shifted like a storm breaking. One general slammed a fist on the table. This woman has more courage than half our guard. How dare we call her unworthy? Another senator nodded. She may not have titles, but she has loyalty. Twice she saved the crown. That cannot be dismissed. The queen's lips thinned, but before she could speak, one of the guards stepped forward, trembling. Forgive me, your majesty, but I cannot stay silent. It was Lord Darius who ordered the brakes cut. The room exploded in gasps. Malik's head snapped toward Darius, fury blazing. You tried to kill me? Darius only smirked, though his eyes flickered with panic. Prove it. But the guard lifted a recording device, pressing play. Darius's voice filled the chamber, cold and unmistakable. Cut the brakes. If the prince dies, the throne is mine. The queen's face paled. The council roared in outrage. Guards seized Darius as he struggled, his smirk shattering at last. You fools! He shouted as they dragged him away. She'll destroy us all. You'll regret this. Silence followed his removal, thick and heavy. All eyes turned back to Naomi. She stood trembling, still clutching Malik's hand. For the first time, she didn't shrink from the stares. She lifted her chin, her voice clear despite the quiver in it. I never asked for this. I never wanted a throne, or titles or crowns. All I ever wanted was to save lives. That's who I am. But twice, fate put Malik in my path. Twice, I chose to save him. And I'd do it again, no matter what you call me. Because love doesn't care about crowns. It cares about the person beneath the hall fell utterly silent. Malik turned to her, his eyes shining. He slipped the heirloom bracelet, the emerald circlet he'd given her at the lake, onto her wrist again, this time before the world. Naomi Carter, he said, his voice breaking but strong. You are my heart. my truth, my crown. Whether I sit on a throne or stand as a man with nothing, I am yours." The council erupted in applause, cheers swelling. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed. The Queen sat frozen, fury and fear warring in her eyes. One of the council members turned to her. "Your Majesty, the people will not forgive further opposition. The prince has spoken. The girl has proven herself. Unless you wish to see your rule broken, you must accept this union." The Queen's hands tightened on her throne. Finally, with ice in her voice, she spat. "Very well. But mark my words, this is the beginning of the end." It didn't matter, because Malik was already pulling Naomi into his arms, pressing his lips to hers, as the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Marcus stood in the back, his expression torn, but when Naomi's eyes found his through the crowd, he gave the slightest nod, and Imani whooped loud enough to shake the walls. Zara, pale and trembling, slipped from the chamber in silence, her humiliation complete. Malik kissed Naomi again, deeper this time, the cameras catching every angle, the world bearing witness, and for the first time, Naomi didn't care. She belonged, not because of crowns, not because of thrones, but because Malik had chosen her, and she had finally chosen herself. 1 year later, Naomi stood in the palace gardens, sunlight warming her skin. She wore a gown of soft white silk, her curls crowned with flowers, the emerald bracelet gleaming on her wrist. Beside her, Malik smiled as the officiant's words rang out. "And so, by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." Cheers erupted. Imani sobbed into Marcus's shoulder. The Queen, stiff and silent, looked away, but the council smiled, the people rejoiced, and the world knew the truth. Malik kissed her, the gardens echoing with joy, and Naomi Carter, once just a girl who pulled a stranger from fire, found herself holding the greatest treasure of all, love that no throne, no crown, no enemy could ever destroy. Here comes the end of the story. If I was able to make your day, comment Mr. Hope you made my day.